"You're just a loser with 2 jobs, my brother smirked in front of everyone. "Then stop living off me," I replied, right before I canceled his rent payments, his car lease, and his phone plan. Now my whole family thinks I'm the bad guy. My name's Michael. I'm 28 years old. For most of my adult life, I've been the one my family could always count on, the reliable one, the helper, the person who showed up whenever there was a problem. For a long time, I didn't see anything wrong with that. It's just how I've always been. But after what my younger brother Robert did, I finally realized that being the nice guy only teaches people to take advantage of you. Robert is 25, 3 years younger than me, and he's always had everything handed to him. Our parents gave him whatever he wanted, while I was expected to act responsible and mature. He was the favorite, the one who could do no wrong, and I was the one stuck cleaning up his messes. When he dropped out of college after just 1 year, my parents didn't even seem surprised. He claimed that school wasn't for him, and they simply accepted it without pushing back. He jumped from job to job, quitting whenever things got tough, yet somehow he always had the latest gadgets, designer clothes, and a car he could barely afford. That's where I came in. Around 4 years ago, Robert told me he was having a hard time. He'd lost yet another job, and was about to be evicted from his apartment. My parents, finally fed up with bailing him out, refused to help. And like a fool, I stepped in. At the time I was working 2 jobs, a sales manager, during the day, and a freelance IT specialist at night. I was constantly exhausted, but I had a plan. I was saving for a future where I wouldn't have to work myself into the ground. Robert knew all of this, but instead of being considerate, he begged me for help. He promised it was just a small favor to help him get back on his feet. That small favor turned into me paying his rent, not just once or twice, but every month. I kept giving him money, hoping that one day he'd finally get his life together. But he never did. Instead, he got comfortable, way too comfortable. I watched him use my hard-earned cash like it was his personal fun budget. He wasn't struggling to survive, he was living better than I was. Expensive food, weekend trips, fancy shoes, he had it all, even though he wasn't earning a single dollar on his own. Whenever I brought it up, he'd brush me off. "Relax, man. I'll pay you back once I make it big." That was his signature line. Once I get my big break. Every month he had a new excuse for not getting a normal job. One month, he was going to be a social media star. The next, he was all about cryptocurrency. After that it was some weird business idea that went nowhere. And through all of it, I kept helping. I don't even know why I let it go on for so long. Maybe because deep down, I still saw him as my little brother, the same one I used to protect when we were kids. But now I see it clearly, I was just letting him walk all over me. And it wasn't until one humiliating night that I finally woke up. It happened at a family dinner. I'd had a rough week. I was completely drained from working non-stop, but my mom insisted we all meet at her house. These dinners were supposed to help us stay close. I didn't really feel like going, but I thought it might be nice to see everyone. I should have stayed home. The evening started off fine. We were eating, chatting, nothing out of the ordinary. As usual, Robert was showing off. This time, he was bragging about a new girl he was dating, who according to him, only liked high-status guys. He kept going on about how some people will never experience real success, because they settle for boring lives. At first I ignored it. He's always been arrogant, but then he looked directly at me, with that smug grin, and said, "Take Michael, for example. The guy works 2 jobs just to scrape by, while I get to enjoy life however I want. That's the difference between people who win and people who stay stuck." He called me a loser, me, the same person who had kept a roof over his head for years. My face flushed with heat. I let out a small awkward laugh, hoping he was just joking. "Are you serious?" I asked. Robert simply shrugged. "I mean, it's kind of sad, isn't it? You work yourself into the ground, while I'm out actually living." The room went completely silent. My mom let out a quiet gasp, and my dad slowly shook his head, disappointed. I just sat there frozen in shock. The nerve, after everything I had done for him, all the times I'd stepped in to help. This was how he saw me. I clenched my hands tightly under the table. I could have snapped back at him right then and there, but I didn't. Instead I just gave a small smile, and nodded. "You're right, Robert. It really is sad." And in that moment, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't argue, And I didn't try to defend myself. I just quietly made up my mind. That month would be the last time I ever paid his rent. The very next day, I called the building manager and let him know that Robert would be responsible for his own payments from now on. I wasn't sending another cent. No more help with bills. I shut everything down. His phone line, his car insurance, even the backup credit card I'd foolishly opened under my name for him. At first Robert didn't notice. He was too busy enjoying his comfortable lifestyle. But once the rent deadline passed, reality finally hit him, and the best part was, I didn't say a word. I let him figure it all out on his own. I ignored every text, every call, total silence. It took a full 7 days before he finally broke. And that's when everything exploded. Robert showed up at my apartment out of nowhere, pounding on the door like a madman. It was late, after midnight, and I'd just finished a long shift at work. The moment I opened the door, he barged right in, face flushed with frustration. "Man, what's going on?" he demanded. "My landlord told me the rent wasn't paid. My car insurance is gone. My phone's cut off. What is happening?" I leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed, calmly watching him panic. Honestly, it felt strangely satisfying. "I stopped paying," I told him, plain and simple. His eyes widened in disbelief. "What?" I said I stopped paying, I repeated slowly, making sure he heard every word. "You can't be serious," he stammered, his voice shaking with panic. "You said it yourself, didn't you?" I replied. "I'm just some loser who works too hard. So why would I keep giving money to someone who thinks he's too good for a real job?" His eye twitched, and he scrambled to backtrack. "Man, I was just messing around. I didn't really mean it." I let out a quiet laugh. "No, Robert, you meant every word. You showed me exactly how you feel. And now, you've made this mess, so you can deal with it." He blinked, clearly trying to think of something to say. His voice softened. "Michael, come on man, you can't just leave me like this. I need that money." I tilted my head slightly, pretending to think. "Need it? That's funny. I thought you were the one winning at life. I was the one juggling 2 jobs just to make ends meet. I thought you must have had plenty of savings." His jaw tightened. "Man, stop being petty. Just cover this month, and I swear I'll sort everything out." I couldn't help but laugh right in his face. "Nope, you're on your own now." That's when he really lost his temper. "You're actually doing this to me," he shouted, his voice growing louder and more desperate. "After everything I've done for you." I raised an eyebrow. "Everything you've done for me?" I repeated, genuinely stunned. "Tell me, Robert, what exactly have you done for me?" He opened his mouth, closed it again, and then finally muttered, "I'm your brother." Like that alone was supposed to be enough. I shook my head slowly. "That's not how life works. You can't treat people like they don't matter, and then expect them to keep bailing you out. This is what real life looks like, Robert." He stood there breathing hard, and then his expression shifted. His face twisted into something cold and bitter. "Oh, I get it," he sneered, flashing a nasty little smirk. "You think you're better than me now, huh? Just because you've got a boring job and a few dollars in savings." I met his gaze, steady and calm. "I don't think I'm better than you, Robert. I know I am." That was the final straw. His fists clenched, and for a moment I honestly thought he might hit me. But instead he let out a sharp, humorless laugh, and stepped back. "Fine," he muttered. "You want to treat me like this? Leave me out to dry? Just wait. You'll regret it." I frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" He grinned, but it was cold and empty. "You'll find out." And with that he turned around and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the entire wall shuddered. I stood there for a while, trying to process everything. There was something about the tone of his voice that unsettled me. I didn't know what Robert had planned, but I had a feeling this wasn't over. And I was right. Because just 3 days later, my phone rang. It was my mom, her voice sharp and panicked the second I picked up. "What did you do to your brother?" she demanded. My stomach sank. "What are you talking about?" I asked, confused. She let out an exasperated sigh. "He's here with us," she snapped. "He says you kicked him out and left him with nothing." I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. "Mom, I didn't kick him out. I just stopped paying for his lifestyle." "Well, now he has nothing, Michael," she fired back. "No home, no car, no money. How could you do this to your own family?" I let out a dry, tired chuckle. "I didn't do this, Mom," He did it to himself. She huffed. He told me you're just being cruel, that you're punishing him for no reason. I shook my head, the frustration rising. Of course he said that. He always finds a way to make himself look like the victim. I gripped the phone tightly. Let me ask you something, I said calmly. Did Robert ever tell you where all his money went while I was the one covering his rent? Did he mention the expensive brands, the luxury dinners, the vacations? There was silence on the other end. I kept going. That's where the money disappeared, Mom. Not to support someone struggling, but to fund his lazy lifestyle. He wasted every dollar I gave him. Still, she said nothing. Then finally her voice softened. He's your blood, Michael. You don't turn your back on family. And there it was, the same old excuse I'd heard 100 times before. The line my parents always used to shield him from facing any consequences. I drew in a slow breath. Mom, I love you, but I'm done being Robert's wallet. If you want to take care of him, that's your choice. I'm out. And with that I hung up before she could say another word. I sat down, my heart pounding. Deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Things were probably about to get even messier. And I was right. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing non-stop. Missed calls, furious texts, voicemails. The screen was flooded. Robert had gone all in this time. He wasn't just playing the victim, he was launching an all-out smear campaign. Apparently he'd told everyone the most dramatic lie he could spin, that I had coldly thrown him out, leaving him broke, homeless, and starving. He painted himself as the helpless, selfless brother who'd sacrificed so much for me. And me as the heartless sibling, who had abandoned him. The worst part, they believed him. Matt left me a voicemail, his voice shaking with anger. I always knew you only cared about yourself, Michael. But this is beyond selfish. He's your brother and you left him with nothing. I hope you're proud. A cousin texted me. Bro, I can't believe this. How could you let Robert go through that? You're supposed to be family. Even my grandmother wrote, Dear Michael, my heart is breaking. Your poor brother has nowhere to go, and you won't even lift a finger to help. Family is meant to stick together. One by one, the messages came pouring in, each one repeating the same thing, that I was heartless, that Robert was the victim, and that I should be ashamed. I knew I had to fix the mess he had caused. My blood was boiling. Robert had lied to everyone, painted me as some heartless villain, and then sat back while the entire family came after me like I was the monster. But what finally pushed me over the edge were the photos. Someone, probably my mother, had sent me a batch of pictures showing Robert looking absolutely miserable at their house. One had him slumped on the couch, hair a mess, face buried in his hands. Another showed him wrapped in a blanket like some shattered soul. The last one, him staring out the window like he was mourning his entire existence. It was so fake I almost laughed. But I didn't. Because while he was busy playing the heartbroken victim, I was the one getting bombarded with insults. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about saving face. He wasn't just trying to protect his own image, he was trying to destroy mine. I had to act fast. So I did the one thing Robert never expected. I gathered proof. I spent hours digging through bank records, payment logs and message screenshots, collecting every shred of evidence, every dollar I'd sent him, every bill I'd covered, every ridiculous thing he bought while claiming to be broke. The fancy dinners, the designer clothes, the constant vacations, the VIP concert tickets. I captured it all, and once I had everything, I drafted one message, and sent it to every single person who'd attacked me. I hadn't planned to go public, but since Robert had twisted the truth for an audience, it was time they saw what actually happened. I wrote, Since Robert decided to share his version with all of you, here's mine. The truth. Attached are the receipts. Every payment. Every bill, every expense I covered while working 2 jobs to help. While I was breaking my back, he was blowing my money on luxuries, and mocking me behind my back. He even called me a failure in front of our whole family at dinner. So I stopped paying for him, simple as that. If you still think I'm the villain, that's your choice. But I'm done being you. And then the fallout began. Let's just say Robert was about to learn what happens when you push someone too far. It didn't take long. Less than an hour after I sent the message, my phone lit up, his name flashing on the screen. I didn't answer. I sat there watching as the call rang out and went to voicemail. I already knew what was coming. 5 minutes later he called again. I let it ring,
On the third call I finally picked up. "Michael," he said quietly. But underneath that calm voice was an edge sharp enough to cut glass. I could hear it. The rage boiling just under the surface. "You just made a huge mistake." I leaned back, trying to keep my voice calm. "Oh really? What mistake is that?" He let out a mocking laugh. "You think sharing all that stuff was smart? You actually believe people will fall for your version of the story?" "I didn't make anything up," I replied calmly. "I just showed the facts. You're the one pretending." He was silent for a few seconds. Then his voice grew colder. "You're going to regret doing this," he said darkly. "You've ruined any future help you might have gotten from me. That's over forever." I smiled slightly, sitting up. "You're threatening me now. After everything you've done to me, do you seriously think I'm afraid of you?" There was a pause. Then I heard him breathe sharply through his nose. "You still don't get it, do you?" he said in a low, angry tone. "You owe me. This isn't about money. It's about loyalty. About being family. And you're going to pay for walking away like this. You'll come crawling back one day, begging for help. And I won't even look your way. Not after this." His words stung. But I didn't let it show. "You like to pretend you're some kind of hero," I said. "But you've just been taking advantage of me. All along. That ends now." There was a brief silence. Then his voice dropped to a slow, threatening whisper. "You know exactly what I mean," he said. "I'm not walking away. I'm coming over. And when I get there, you better have something ready for me." I felt my heart race faster. This was no longer about money. It was about power. Robert wasn't used to losing control, and I had just taken that from him. Now he was coming to take it back. "Sure," I replied, keeping my voice firm. "Come over. I'll unlock the door for you. But don't expect any kindness from me." He didn't reply. The call ended. I sat still, feeling the weight of what was coming. He was on his way. And I had a bad feeling it wouldn't end well. It didn't take long before there was a loud knock at the door. I opened it without waiting. And there stood Robert. He looked like he just walked through a storm. His eyes were wide. And his face was full of rage. "You really think you can just shut me out like this and everything will be fine?" he growled, stepping inside without asking. "You seriously believe I won't come here and make you fix this? I need that money, Michael. I earned it." I locked the door behind him and folded my arms across my chest. "Earn it? Are you seriously saying that right now?" Robert moved closer, pressing his finger into my chest. "You've been lying to yourself all this time. I've looked out for you for years. You honestly think I haven't given up things for your benefit? I was the one keeping your life from falling apart. And now you're ready to throw me away over nothing." I stayed firm, standing tall. "No, Robert. I didn't mess anything up. You did. I just stopped giving you everything you demanded. And now you're here acting like I owe you something. But you're wrong," I said. "I'm not your doormat anymore." He let out a loud, hollow laugh. "So you think you've got the upper hand now? You believe cutting me off makes it all go away? You don't understand who I am, Michael. I'm family. I'm your brother. And if you think you can just forget about me without facing the consequences, you're completely wrong," I said firmly. I stood still as he paced back and forth, his steps growing faster, his temper rising. "I need cash right now," he shouted, his voice escalating. "You've been saving money all this time. You owe me. You can't just leave me hanging like this." I shook my head slowly. "You won't be getting another cent. I've helped you long enough. Now it's your turn to figure things out on your own." His face tightened with fury. "You really think this is how it ends? You think I'll just walk away and let this go?" He leaned in close, his breath hitting my face, his expression full of anger. But I didn't flinch. "I'm not afraid of you, Robert," I said calmly, my voice steady. "You're not in charge of me. Not now, not ever again." He stopped, breathing heavily, clearly trying to decide what to do next. He hesitated, then made his choice. "You want to do this?" he hissed, stepping back. "Fine. But you're going to pay for this, Michael. I swear you'll regret turning your back on me. You're not walking away from this without facing the consequences." With that he spun around and stormed out, slamming the door so hard that the walls seemed to shake around me. I stood in silence, staring at the door, my heartbeat pounding in my chest. This wasn't over. Not even close. Robert wasn't finished yet. And whatever came next, I knew it would be worse than anything before. The next few days were full of chaos. Robert didn't show up in person, but he didn't disappear either. Instead, the messages changed. He started sending threatening texts, guilt-ridden voice messages, and emotional pressure. Some of them even came from family members. Almost everyone had taken his side. My inbox overflowed with angry messages, accusing me of tearing the family apart. I expected it, but it didn't make it any easier. The stress was starting to wear on me. Robert had always been skilled at playing the victim, and now the entire family believed I was the one who had turned cold. They thought I was the one who had broken the family, but I wasn't giving. I spent the next few days gathering everything, proof of every manipulation, every guilt trip, every outrageous demand Robert had made over the years. I even sought legal advice to make sure nothing I did could come back to hurt me later. Then came the moment that changed everything. I got a call from Robert's girlfriend. She had been living with him for a year. Her voice was shaky as she told me they were drowning in debt, more than I had known. She sounded desperate, trying to guilt-trip me into sending more money. She said Robert was falling apart, and I was the only one who could save him. It was all too familiar. The same lines, the same pressure, the same emotional trap Robert had always used on me. But not this time. I wasn't going to fall for it again. I interrupted her halfway through her sentence. I've done all I can, and I'm finished. If Robert wants to keep making mistakes, that's his decision. But I'm not supporting it anymore. Soon after, I started getting phone calls from nearly everyone in the family. They were angry, upset, and I could almost hear the disbelief in their voice. They didn't understand why I was refusing to help my own brother. It took everything in me to stay calm, but I explained the reality. I told them how Robert had never taken responsibility for anything he'd done, how I had been the one keeping him afloat for so long, and how he turned his back on me when I needed help. Gradually, they started to see things from my perspective. Bit by bit, the messages faded away. The pressure and guilt no longer worked on me. Robert didn't stop immediately though. He still tried to contact me, leaving voicemails warning me that I'd regret what I'd done. But the last message he ever sent said, "Hope you enjoy it while you can, Michael. It won't last. You'll come crawling to me one day. Just wait." It meant nothing. It was just another empty warning, like all the promises and threats he had ever made. But what happened next took a strange turn. 1 week later, I received a call from one of his old friends, someone I hadn't spoken to in a long time. He told me Robert had been bragging about a new business he was planning to start, something that would turn his life around after all the mistakes he'd made. I couldn't help but quietly laugh. The same person who used to call me lazy and worthless was now pretending to chase his lifelong dream. Honestly, I wasn't even sure he had what it took to succeed. Not the ability, not the energy, not the discipline. That moment made everything clear. Robert wasn't going to change. He would always be the same selfish, manipulative person who couldn't take responsibility for anything that went wrong. So I let it go. I stopped worrying about him. I cleared him out of my mind and chose to keep moving forward, putting my time and energy into what really mattered: my peace, my growth, and my own future. I wouldn't let his problems drag me down anymore. Now that I think back, I know I made the right choice, but sometimes the questions still creep in. Should I have done more? Did I go too far? What do you think? Was I wrong to walk away, or was I simply standing up for myself after years of being used?